This is a life-threatening emergency situation.
And an all too familiar one too. Rescues and evacuations as homes and businesses that only flooded 3 months ago are inundated again. Police confirming one man has died in floodwaters in the inner west. Those who haven't left face being cut off as bridges go under in Sydney's northwest. The southwest has been hit hard too after Warringamba Dam overflowed at 2 a.m.
There's no room for the water to remain in the dams. They are starting to spill. The rivers are flowing very fast and very dangerous, and then we have the risk of flash flooding depending on where the rains are.
Thousands of residents are now set to spend the night in evacuation centres, and it's unclear when they'll be able to return home.
This is the third time this has happened this year.
It's the worst. Now it's worse than last time.
It's never ending. We get on our feet and then the rain comes again. So it's tough. It's tough for the whole community.
Further down the coast, parts of the Illawarra have copped the equivalent of Hobart's annual rainfall in just one weekend. But this is all just a preview of what's to come. Modelling shows flood peaks will match and could even exceed the record-breaking levels in March.
It is a rapidly evolving situation, so please continue to listen to the advice of the BOM, listen to the advice of our emergency services organisations.
The SES has already answered thousands of calls for help, and the federal government has put the ADF on standby to assist. Authorities hopeful everyone heeds the warnings.
Sometimes you just need to stay put in order to ensure that you and your family are going to be safe at this time.
Laurie Geist lives in Camden and runs the local tennis club in Sydney's southwest. He joins us now. Laurie, it sounds like it's been a really rough 24 hours for you. What's happened?
Again, yes. Well, basically the rain started falling there on sort of Friday night, I suppose, and we had a fair bit on Friday night, and yesterday was just non-stop, and now the tennis club's underwater again for the fourth time in 4 months.
It's heartbreaking, Laurie. And have you actually been able, though, to get to the club to inspect that damage, see that it is underwater?
No. You can probably see behind me that the flood water is just behind me, so the club's another 150, 200 metres behind me and to my left. And it's still, the floodwaters are still right up to nearly the top of the roof.
Laurie, you're obviously not the only one going through this all over again. How is the community coping tonight?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the lower lying areas, and especially the older areas of Camden, that'll be staying in emergency accommodation tonight. We really feel for them. At least we're not living down at the tennis club, even though it is my livelihood.
Laurie, if these events are becoming more common, what should we be doing to better safeguard places like Camden?
Obviously, there's building codes that have been improved and where you can build and all that sort of thing. There's plenty of places around town that are high enough, and most of the flood-affected areas are the older parts of town. But as long as we get early enough notice, we can deal with it. That's no drama, I don't think.
Laurie, when it keeps happening in this way, do you start to question whether it is worth sticking with it and doing the clean-up and going round again?
Definitely, Hamish. I'm getting a bit old for all this stuff, but no, we soldier on, and it's the help that we get from our members and the rest of the community. I had phone calls from the local minister of the Baptist Church saying, look, we want to help and in whatever way we can. So all that sort of stuff is really heartening to know that people are thinking of us and people are able to come down and give us a hand in whatever way, shape or form that they can.
Well, Laurie, people are thinking of you. We wish you well with the clean-up and the soldiering on. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Patrick Conolly is the Mayor of Hawkesbury in the outer northwest of Sydney. Patrick, thanks for talking to us live tonight. I know this emergency is unfolding as we go to air. How are things looking right now?
Look, it's an ongoing situation. It is very rapidly evolving, and it is potentially very dangerous here.
That bridge that you are standing in front of, I think that was opened a few years ago, $140 million it cost. It was meant to be essentially flood-proof. It's looking very much like it's underwater tonight.
Yeah, so it was never meant to be flood-proof, the Windsor Bridge, so we don't really want to put that information out there. It greatly improved flood resilience, but when you get these events that are, 1 in 20, 1 in 30-year events, even that flood-resilient infrastructure doesn't keep up. You can probably see behind me that the bridge itself is actually above the water still at this moment, but all the approach roads are underwater now, for as far as you can see.
Well, Patrick, there's no really other way to say it other than this year has been absolutely brutal for the Hawkesbury, your region. You were hit so hard by floods back in March. So did you think that you'd ever be back here again so quickly, and did you have a chance to recover?
Yeah, I mean, rationally, we know we live on a floodplain. We know that the risk is always high when the dams are full and the ground is wet. But, on a human level, it's unbelievable. Like, you just don't expect to go through this so many times. And I've been through this with the community, 3 times in the last year. Two major floods, and now this one is looking like a 3rd major flood. There's only so much people can take, and there's this real sense of exhaustion and fatigue in the community, and you can totally understand it.
Well, so the community's exhausted and fatigued. I mean, what's the conversation about how they're going to get through it again?
Look, that we have to. There's not really, in that sense, there's not really a conversation. We have to be prepared. We have to take the steps. And people here, we know what we have to do. We've been through this a number of times now. People know what steps they have to take, and when their property will be affected and what that looks like for them. But it's the recovery that how do we get people through that? There's going to be huge mental health challenges. There has been after each flood, but each one is just compounding that problem and making it far greater. Like you said, we had lots of infrastructure we haven't repaired yet. Some road repairs taking months that, who knows what's going to be left of those now. And the same goes for private property. People would have started repairing their houses, their businesses, and just to have this happen again, it's just unthinkable. It's totally unbearable, and your heart just goes out to these people that are going through that.
Patrick, at the start of the year when this happened, for the first time, there was a lot of criticism around the federal government's response. Obviously, there is a new government in place now. Are you getting the resources that you need?
Look, we're in the middle of the crisis, and I've got to say, throughout all these last 3 floods I've been involved in, the operational response has been really good. The SES is the combat agency in this situation, and they're the ones that lead the local operation alongside the local police commander. And I can't fault that. What we're seeing right now is, I think, a really good operational response. But what we've learned is that the next step is actually much harder. When we move into recovery phase, that's when we need the financial resources of the federal government. We need help of the state government and many of its agencies. And, I'm sure we'll get that, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But right now, we just need to focus on getting through the next few days.
Yeah, given that and given the night that clearly lies ahead, what's your message to people watching tonight that are in those areas, what to do?
Look, this event is going to be very similar to the event we had in March 2022. It'll be a little bit higher than we had in March 2021, according to the BOM. So people should know now, if you're in an area that was affected, if your property was affected in either of those events, it's highly likely your property will be affected in this event over the next couple of days. So if you're able to, just evacuate now. If you needed to evacuate in those events, you're going to have to in this one. So don't wait for an order, don't wait for a warning. If you've got the ability to get out, it's far safer to do that now before you have to. So the message is just, please follow the instructions of the SES, evacuate if you can. And one other thing I would just like to say is, if you don't have to be on the roads, please don't be on the roads. We don't need people coming here day tripping to have a look at the flood. It's dangerous enough out here. It's wet, it's dark. There's people fleeing their homes, emergency services out here trying to do the right thing by people. So if you don't have to be on the road, please don't.
Wise words, Patrick Conolly. Our thoughts with you and everyone there tonight. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
And obviously, just to restate that if you are in one of the affected areas or you think you might be near one of them, go to the SES website, also to their Facebook and social media pages. All of that information is being updated constantly. And as he made the point, if you're able to take action earlier rather than when it's too late, obviously that's going to be safer for you and your family as well.